Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly developers Subspace Developer Sync. Today, we'll be getting updates from everyone on the team, on the engineering team, about what they've been working on in the last week and what they plan on doing this week. As always, we'll get started with the core protocol team. Nazar, how's it going?
Hello, guys. Last week was mostly about networking and related stuff for me. Since we launched the Gemini 3 testnet, we have seen different interesting behaviors. And from there, we have been doing optimizations with Shamil. Some of the things I was doing is managing concurrency for publishing because it was running out of memory if you have a lot of space pledged. And I was also tweaking the way we are using networking such that SDK can actually create one networking instance for DSN and reuse it across a node and farmer. Otherwise, they have to create two instances, which is inefficient and inconvenient. I also upgraded Lib peer-to-peer to the new version, which has some fixes. And I was also working on some CI improvements, as we discussed, to decrease the time we need to wait. The pull request I'm about to submit is about optimizing concurrency even further, where we don't have specific limits for things. We are managing that internally within the networking stack, and that will be able to scale with number of participants as well, so that we can actually avoid all of those errors we have seen with the exceeding input incoming stream limits and stuff like that. So I think that will be still ongoing work this week, and we'll see how it performs in a few days with the new snapshot, and we'll go from there.
When do we expect to see the new snapshot, Nazar?
I'd like to have this pull request finished today and submitted, and maybe tomorrow if it is reviewed quickly.
Okay, great. Shamil, things coming.
Sure. Last week, I worked with networking performance. I added piece publishing butcher and reviewed several PRs from Nazar. After that, I started our migration to Kademlia pool model. I changed piece publication to the piece announcements. I also changed local cache structures for DSN peers. As the work is in progress, this week I will continue this pool model for the DSN, basically.
Wuchang.
Okay, yeah. The first thing last week was to fix the domain block notification for the relayer. And then I spent a good amount of time debugging and fixing the executor panic issue on current testnet. A permission and runtime upgrade had been performed in order to fix an executor runtime issue. There are still two more pairs that need to be merged so that we can continue the executor testing. Apart from the things I did look into the codomain runtime upgrade, and we already have an idea how it can be supported. The focus of this week is to make the executor run on Gemini 3 and fix, any potential new bugs, and finish the codomain runtime upgrade in the meanwhile. Yeah, that's up to on my side. Yeah.
Great. Ved.
Last week was a bit of infra, just getting everything up, and also supporting Liu Shang to get the executors to fix up some of the issues that we have been facing, and also get the relayer up to speed. If anyone's curious, they could already start up a local dev node and then do the actually move funds between one domain to another domain. But I'm trying to get with Gemini 3 so that people could start using relayers. That is pretty much done last week, and that's pretty much the focus this week as well. Deploying Gemini 3 with all the changes that we have done with relayers as well, and also supporting Liu Shang with anything that's left over on the executor that needs to be deployed on the infra as soon as possible. That's pretty much our focus this week.
That's great. So once we get this deployed on Gemini 3, will this cross-domain messaging work there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been testing it locally. Please give feedback, but we will also deploy it, and I'll let everyone know that you could try it out, and then maybe some more feedback from there, and then go from there.
All right. Amazing. Great. Parth.
Yeah, so I've been working on a specification for cross-chain relays. In the last 2 weeks, we created project plan, and I have completed first draft of specification and design document for the relay domain, as well as some skeleton for Ethereum contracts. Um, and yeah, that the a link is there in the domains channel. If anybody would like to review and give feedback, they are welcome to do so. This week, I believe it will mostly be on my end, finalizing the in-process relay design. Uh, I will uh, I will borrow some element from Ved's relay, but because of the cross-chain nature, that there might be some differences between the overall design there. And yeah, and this week I think, as far as I know, me and Jeremiah is also going to start working on implementation plan as well.
Okay. It's great to see the progress. I was reviewing the specs last week. I'll probably leave some comments today. So, Ning.
Hi. For last week, I mostly focused on working on the parry receipt and eject command for the PR. And I also had a PR to fix bugs about the first pool from domain may be incorrectly processed by executor from another domain. And for this week, I will drop a document about to describe the whole process of how first pool is generated and validated and processed, and what we led to implement, and hopefully probably with some help from Roshan for this document. And also I will look into another text about to correct the intermediate story rules, state rule from the client instead of the runtime. Yeah, there's that in my end.
All right. Rahul, how's the onboarding coming?
Yeah, good. So last week I mostly spent learning Substrate and reading more on the V1 and V2 specs. And this week, hopefully, I'll get an idea of what I'll be working on next. I need to sync up with Jeremiah today to get an idea.
All right. We'll move on to product. Arthur, how's it coming?
Hey, some wallets already upgraded, ready for Gemini 3, so we're good there. Subscan, I think based on what we're talking about on the protocol side, I need to relay some updates for them. They're running into issues, as we mentioned. So I think once we have that, I can get them up to speed, and then we should be good to go to push forward. Otherwise, that's the blocker for us on that end. Just a gentle reminder, next week, Trail of Bits, that will be the fixed audit resolution. Again, there's nothing on our end to do, but just to give you a heads up, that's coming around the corner. That's it on my end.
And to be clear, with Subscan, they're going to need we need to do our runtime upgrade, I think, or not runtime, we need to upgrade Gemini 3 and with the scale codec issue.
I think actually a runtime upgrade will be necessary for that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so whenever that happens, then I'll need to let them know. But they're currently blocked on that. But yes, okay.
Is Serge here?
I'm here. Hi.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so last week, as usual, I was working on Block Explorer, Squid, and I was working on implementing end-to-end tests. And at some point, like performance became more urgent, so I put end-to-end tests on hold for now and focused on investigation. So I added some monitoring tools for Postgres, and it turned out we need to add some additional indexes. So I added those, and I also updated Subsquid packages, which was recommended by the Subsquid team, and it broke everything because previously there was like a batch size configuration. We could start with relatively small batches because early history of Gemini 2 has some big blocks. And they removed this feature, and now it's adjusted automatically, and it doesn't work for Gemini 2. So I was communicating with them, we were debugging. For now, they have implemented a temporary fix for the archive, and it works so far without any significant performance degradation. And for Gemini 3, I started creating the infrastructure, created droplets, and for the archive, the archive is currently blocked with this metadata issue. So I'm waiting for the update, and after that I can resume with Gemini 3. That's all.
Great. That's great. Natasha, how's the front end coming along? A Block Explorer. I saw Natasha. She's here.
Looks like she's muted, but doesn't show.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Last week I focused on working on some of the issues that Jeremy created for the Block Explorer. Also, finishing the search feature for the Block Explorer with some of the recommendations search made. And also started working on the domain UI UX needed for Gemini 3. Also, one of the things that I did while the API was broken was fixing some of the NT states and the error messages that we give on the Block Explorer UI. And I'm currently like cleaning up a little bit the changes to make the PR for those changes.
Great. Yvonne, SDK.
Yeah, so last week was mainly about the launch of Gemini 3. So I just followed the updates from the mono repo, tried to debug the SDK as it happened to not work at the first time. So yeah, just followed the updates, like updated the change spec several times. Yeah, also there was a bug related to the syncing, which is still there in Substrate. I debugged that a bit. We discussed it with Nazar. So it seems that currently there is a bug in the Substrate networking layer. So I deployed like a small hack for the SDK so that we would like be sure that we know the sync. Apart from that, there was an issue in the CLI with the with the farm block number which is shown on the CLI. So I fixed that and handed over to the Ozgon. Apart from that, recently I also updated the mono repo to the latest version with the networking layer updates from the Nazar, which would allow us to like reuse the farmer and nodes GSN instance. So apart from that, also I deployed some merged the pull request with some formatting stuff with the Rust and the SDK. So currently I'm working on the on merging the I'm working on the pull request for sharing the same DSN networking instance for like farmer and the node. I guess after that I will work on the executor support from the SDK. So that's it on my end.
How's the CLI, Ozgun?
Pretty well.
we have our first open source issue submitted, I mean, from the community. And it's related to folder creation is failing on Linux if the parent directory is not there, because I assumed it would be there. It's .config directory. Now we have better error configuration for that, error reporting for that. There is also another bug that we submitted from our team. It was about a data race between file read-write operations. I also fixed that. We decided to get rid of the dev chain at the moment with Ivan because it's not being used and it's just duplicate code. If we want to have a use case for that, we can introduce it again. Of course, we released the CLI last week. Our team had experimented with it, and so far all the feedback is pretty nice. Apart from that, yes, we improved the logging part a bit. And lastly, but not least, today I spent most of the time refactoring the YAML files for both monorepo and CLI so that we have simpler and more efficient workflows for CI regard. And yeah, that's all.
That's great. I think the last few weeks we've seen a lot of CI improvements. It's looking good. All right, so moving on to research. Daria.
Hey, hi, hey all. So last week I have been pretty productive. I have put together the latest ideas from Jeremiah and back at the time that he had Dr. Chen Fang and Hakim at his place. I have put them together in more concrete protocol, specifically the plotting, audit, and the verification part with attached numbers. So what could be the sector sizes, what would be the proof sizes. Where I'm also meeting with the Dr. Chen Fan later today to keep discussing it. But that seems like well, more or less final direction where we would be going. However, we're still exploring the design space around, and I'm specifically exploring the different ways that we could prove that our replica data was actually some time ago part of our history data. So it's not just some random data, and there is a lot of room there. So not just the KZG, but everything that was built on top of the KZG in the last 10 years. So I'm compiling a lot of that. Maybe we want to introduce some ZK stuff, but that's a little too slow, maybe. And yeah, there's a lot of room that I'm studying on it, which is more like technical details.
Right. I think it's everybody but me. So last week was working on Gemini 3 stress test stuff. So working on the Gemini 3 engineering roadmap. I'll be sharing a lucid chart with the team here soon. It's kind of it's a timeline, but not like without time, without specific times. But I'll be wanting to get feedback from everybody on that. Getting started. I see everybody's been contributing. They're starting to get contributing to the Substrate Builders program, milestone 3 review, and then been having fun putting or updating hiring plans for the first quarter. So that's mine. Anybody else have anything before we say goodbye to YouTube? All right. I'll see everybody next week.